Your life is a labyrinth of choices, each turn echoing with ancient whispers. Those mythic journeys through imaginary worlds are not just fantasy, they are blueprints for our own struggles and triumphs, reflecting deep human psychology and timeless cultural values. By the end of this exploration, you will possess a new lens to see your own challenges as part of a grand, heroic narrative. We will uncover why these stories of heroes feel so familiar and how a simple artifact can hold the key to ultimate power. What part of your own journey feels like a path waiting to be walked? That childhood thrill of hearing about Odysseus sailing into the unknown is a spark we all recognize. It is the same pull you feel when a map unfolds or a new path appears in the woods. This deep, innate yearning is the engine of the mythic journey, a narrative pattern so ancient and widespread it forms the backbone of our greatest stories. From the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, where a king quests for immortality, to the modern fantasies lining our bookshelves, this same fundamental structure repeats. Mythologist Joseph Campbell called this pattern the monomyth, or the hero's journey. He saw it as a single story told 1,000 ways, a universal blueprint for transformation that resonates across every culture and epoch. Campbell outlined common stages that every hero, real or imagined, seems to walk. It begins in the ordinary world, the comfortable, familiar place where the hero lives, often unaware of the larger universe waiting. Then comes the call to adventure, a disruptive event or message that invites the hero into the unknown. This call can be a threat, a discovery, or a simple realization that something is missing. Refusing this call is a natural reaction, but destiny rarely takes no for an answer. Sooner or later, the hero must make the pivotal choice to cross the threshold, leaving the old world behind to step into a new, mysterious realm of challenges and possibilities. Think of Frodo Baggins content in his cozy shire. The call arrives with the One Ring, a burden he does not want. His ordinary world is one of peace and second breakfasts. But when the safety of that world is threatened, he makes the conscious choice to cross the threshold, stepping beyond the borders of the Shire into a vast and dangerous Middle-earth. His first steps on that road are small, but they change everything. Why does this pattern feel so universal, so deeply ingrained in us? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, offered a compelling explanation. He proposed the idea of the collective unconscious, a deep layer of the human psyche shared by all of humanity. Within this psychic foundation reside archetypes, universal symbols and patterns of behavior, like the hero, the mentor, or the shadow. The stages of the hero's journey are not just plot points. They are reflections of these deep psychological archetypes, echoing our own internal processes of growth and self-discovery. When have you felt a call to leave your comfort zone, a quiet whisper urging you towards something new, even if it was frightening? That is the echo of the monomyth in your own life. This foundational pattern is the map our heroes follow, but the worlds they explore are the territory where these transformations truly unfold. A seed does not become a mighty tree by remaining safe within its shell. It must crack open, push through the dark, resisting soil, and strive relentlessly for the distant sun. This struggle is not a punishment. It is the very process that forges its strength. The hero archetype embodies this same fundamental truth. Carl Jung saw the hero as a representation of the conscious ego, the part of ourselves that must venture into the unknown territories of the psyche to confront its own limitations and integrate the fragmented parts of the whole self. This journey toward what he called individuation is a quest for wholeness, and the hero is the central figure brave enough to undertake it. Yet heroes are not a single, monotonous breed. They wear many masks across the world's myths. There is the classic warrior, like the Greek Achilles, whose raw power is both his greatest asset and his tragic flaw, his heel a symbol of the vulnerability that comes with even the greatest strength. Then there is the clever trickster, like Anansi the spider from West African and Caribbean folklore, who often lacks physical might but uses wit, humor, and cunning to outsmart far more powerful opponents, shaping the world through cleverness rather than force. And we cannot forget the martyr, the figure like Joan of Arc, whose profound conviction and willingness to sacrifice everything for a faith or a cause transforms them into a timeless symbol of devotion. These archetypes are not just flat characters. They are defined by specific, compelling traits that drive their stories forward. A tragic flaw or hamasha humanizes them, creating the tension necessary for growth. Supernatural aid, whether from a wise mentor like Merlin or a magical gift, provides the tools they need to face impossible odds, and ultimately, their journey culminates in a profound transformation, a fundamental change in their being that often restores balance to their world. King Arthur's purity of heart, his innate sense of justice, was the very quality that allowed him to pull the sword from the stone, a supernatural aid that set him on his path to become the once and future king. His story, like all great hero tales, is a map of potential that exists within us. Which of these heroic qualities resonates most deeply with you? Is it the warrior's courage, the trickster's ingenuity, or the martyr's conviction? Recognizing these echoes in our own choices is the first step to understanding our personal journeys. But no hero, not even the mightiest, walks the path entirely alone. Their transformation is almost always catalyzed and supported by the companions they meet along the way. A village elder sits by the fire, her hands tracing the lines of a worn map as she speaks to a young traveler. She does not give him the answers, but she gives him the tools to find them himself. This timeless scene echoes the crucial role of the mentor, the archetypal guide who appears at the threshold of the great unknown. Joseph Campbell described this moment as the meeting with the supernatural aid, a figure who provides the hero with the amulets, advice, and confidence needed to face the coming trials. These mentors, from the wise Gandalf to the patient Yoda, are far more than simple teachers. They serve several vital functions on the hero's path. First, they offer protection, often acting as a guardian during the hero's most vulnerable initial steps into the new world. Second, they present challenges and training that forge the hero's raw potential into disciplined skill. And crucially, they frequently bestow a talisman, a physical object like a key, a weapon, or a piece of wisdom that holds symbolic power for the quest ahead. Yet mentors are often shrouded in mystery, their own pasts and motives partially hidden, reflecting the enigmatic nature of the wisdom they represent. Their most important and often most painful role is their eventual departure, whether through death, a deliberate withdrawal, or simply sending the hero on alone. The mentor must step aside to force the protagonist to stand on their own 2 feet. This is the final, essential lesson of independence. Think of old Ben Kenobi in that dusty cantina on Tatooine. He is the mysterious guide who offers Luke Skywalker a lightsaber, a connection to his father, and his first lessons in the Force. He protects Luke from Imperial stormtroopers, introduces him to a wider galaxy, and ultimately sacrifices himself so that Luke can truly begin his own journey, untethered from his teacher. The mentor is a bridge, a living connection to divine will or ancestral knowledge, but the hero must eventually cross that bridge alone. Who has been a mentor in your own life, and what was the single most important tool or piece of wisdom they gave you? Just as these guides light the way forward, they also prepare the hero for the shadows that lie ahead, the formidable adversaries who will test every ounce of that hard-won strength. A hero stands frozen in a chamber of endless mirrors, and every reflection shows a twisted version of himself. This is the heart of the confrontation with the shadow, the moment where the external antagonist and the hero's deepest internal fears become one. The shadow figure is far more than a simple villain. It is a vital component of the mythic journey, embodying the hero's own repressed weaknesses, the unspoken desires, and the raw, untamed chaos they must learn to face. Carl Jung defined the shadow as the unconscious part of our personality, the repository for all the traits we deny or hide, even from ourselves. To become whole, the hero cannot simply defeat this shadow. They must first acknowledge it, understand its origin, and integrate its lessons. This is why the antagonist is not merely an obstacle, but a dark reflection crucial for the hero's transformation. These figures of opposition take many forms, each challenging the hero in a distinct way. Some are personal rivals, like the cunning Loki in Norse myths, whose tricks and betrayals test the god's wisdom and patience directly. Others are primordial forces of nature and chaos, like the monstrous Typhon in Greek mythology, a storm giant so terrifying his very presence threatens the foundations of the cosmos. These antagonists share powerful traits that make them compelling. They possess immense, often overwhelming power, forcing the hero to grow beyond their current limits. They frequently have a deep, personal connection to the hero's own past or nature, making the conflict intensely intimate. And their ultimate role is to serve as the catalyst, the necessary pressure that forges the hero's final transformation. Consider the Dark Lord Sauron from The Lord of the Rings. He is not a character with a complex backstory we explore, but a pure manifestation of corrupting power and absolute control. His very existence forces every character, from the smallest hobbit to the wisest wizard, to confront their own potential for temptation and corruption. Frodo's journey is not about defeating Sauron in combat, but about resisting the shadow he represents, a shadow that grows heavier with every step toward Mount Doom. What inner shadow do you need to confront? Is it a voice of doubt, a hidden fear of failure, or a part of yourself you have been unwilling to acknowledge? This necessary clash with opposition, both within and without, prepares the hero for the next phase of the journey, where they must learn to wield the magical tools that can turn the tide. The sword slid from the stone with a whisper of finality, a cold length of forged metal that was, in that single moment, transformed into a nation's destiny. This is the power of the magical artifact, an ordinary object made extraordinary by the meaning and power we pour into it. Across countless mythic journeys, these talismans are far more than mere props. They are concentrated symbols of power, protection, or enlightenment, the very instruments that enable a hero to confront the impossible. Religious historian Mircea Eliade studied this phenomenon across cultures, describing how certain objects become vessels for mana, a sacred, impersonal force that grants them their extraordinary abilities. These items are not just helpful tools, they are often the key that unlocks the next stage of the quest itself. Their roles are as varied as the heroes who wield them. Some artifacts are legendary weapons, like King Arthur's Excalibur, a blade that guarantees victory and legitimizes a ruler's right to lead. Others are shields of protection, like the Aegis of Athena, a divine breastplate or shield that could terrify enemies and turn aside any attack. And then there are the objects of profound knowledge, like the Holy Grail, which represents not just a physical cup, but the ultimate spiritual illumination and connection to the divine. Yet the most compelling artifacts are never simple blessings. They possess a dangerous duality. The One Ring grants its bearer invisibility and long life, yet it simultaneously corrupts their will and bends them toward darkness. It is a tool of immense power and an unbearable burden, a perfect symbol for the seductive nature of absolute control. This complexity forces the hero to grow, to prove they are worthy not just of the artifact's power, but of the responsibility it demands. So what symbolic tool do you seek in your own challenges? Is it a sword of clarity to cut through confusion, a shield of resilience to protect your spirit, or a cup of wisdom to guide your decisions? These legendary objects remind us that our greatest strengths are often externalized before they are internalized. And just as these talismans shape the hero, the worlds they traverse, the enchanted forests, the treacherous mountains, the labyrinthine cities, exert their own profound influence on the path ahead. A forest path does not simply lead you forward. It speaks to you through the rustle of leaves and the groaning of ancient boughs. These imaginary worlds are far more than painted scenery. They are living, breathing entities that shape every footstep a hero takes. J.R.R. Tolkien did not merely invent Middle-earth, he painstakingly gave it a soul, weaving thousands of years of history, language, and song into its very soil. For him, the world itself was the primary character, a force that heroes must learn to listen to and respect. The geography of these realms is never arbitrary. Impassable mountains force a hero to find hidden reserves of endurance, while treacherous swamps often symbolize moral ambiguity, a murky place where right and wrong are difficult to distinguish. The celestial cities gleaming on distant peaks, in contrast, represent ideals of purity, order, and enlightenment, a goal that seems almost unreachable. Consider the shifting labyrinth of Greek myth, a prison designed by the master craftsman Daedalus. Its walls were not static stone, they were a psychological puzzle that physically manifested the confusion and terror of the Minotaur within. Alice's Wonderland operates on a similar principle, a dreamlike realm where illogical rules and unpredictable geography constantly challenge her perception of reality, forcing her to adapt or go mad. The cultural systems embedded within these worlds exert their own powerful influence. A society built on rigid honor codes, like the feudal systems of many fantasy kingdoms, creates internal conflicts for a hero who must sometimes break those very rules to achieve a greater good. The very air of a world, thick with magic or choked with industrial smog, directs the flow of the narrative and defines the possibilities for its inhabitants. So what would a map of your own inner world look like? Would it feature sprawling deserts of solitude, dense forests of untapped potential, or towering citadels of long-held belief? These landscapes are not just stages for adventure, they are the external mirrors of our internal struggles. And within these charged and living realms, the hero must eventually face their ultimate test, a final ordeal that will demand everything they have learned and become. The path ahead is never a straight line. It is a gauntlet of riddles and monsters, each one designed to test a different facet of the hero's spirit. This punishing stretch is known as the Road of Trials, a critical crucible in the mythic journey where a hero must prove their worth not in a single battle, but through a relentless series of escalating challenges. Joseph Campbell identified this phase as a profound initiation, a deliberate stripping away of the old, comfortable self to make room for a new, more resilient identity. These obstacles are not random punishments, they are the curriculum of transformation, forcing the hero to utilize every lesson learned and rely on every ally gained. The trials themselves come in 3 distinct flavors, each targeting a different part of the hero's being. Physical trials test the limits of the body and courage, pitting the hero against terrifying beasts like the monstrous Grendel, who terrorized the mead hall of Heorot, demanding a raw display of strength and bravery from Beowulf. Mental trials are battles of wits, challenging the hero's intellect and perception. The Sphinx at the gates of Thebes presented a deadly riddle that Oedipus had to solve with his mind, not his sword, his success saving the city and sealing his own tragic fate. Then there are the spiritual trials, the most insidious of all, which target the hero's core values and willpower. Odysseus faced this on the island of the enchantress Circe, where his crew was turned into swine, and later when his ship passed the sirens, whose beautiful song promised wisdom but led only to destruction. His trials were not about strength, but about endurance, cunning, and the strength to resist temptation. These ancient patterns are alive and well in our modern myths. Think of Percy Jackson, a contemporary demigod who constantly navigates a world where Greek monsters manifest in the modern day. His battles are not just against physical foes like the Minotaur, but against the confusion of his own identity and the weight of a divine legacy he never asked for. His road of trials forces him to master his abilities, trust his friends, and ultimately understand what it means to be a hero in a world that has forgotten how to believe in them. So what personal road of trials has shaped the person you are today? Was it a physical hardship that taught you your own resilience, a mental puzzle that forced you to think in a new way, or a spiritual test of your deepest values? These hurdles, as painful as they are, carve out the hollows in our character where wisdom and strength can finally take root. Surviving this gauntlet does not lead to a final rest, but to a moment of profound and often unexpected revelation. The reflection in the still water was not his own. For a moment, the hero saw not the face he knew, but a tapestry woven from every choice, every failure, and every hidden truth he had ever carried. This is the moment of revelation, the pivotal stage of the journey where the hero's eyes are opened to a reality that changes everything. Joseph Campbell named this profound phase atonement with the Father, a symbolic reconciliation with a powerful, often judgmental, authority figure. This is not merely about pleasing a parent or a god. It represents the hero's acceptance of the larger structure of life itself, the laws of the cosmos, and the traditions that came before them. It is the moment they stop fighting the world and start understanding their necessary place within it. This acceptance is the key that unlocks their final transformation. The revelation itself can arrive in many forms. Sometimes it is the discovery of a hidden heritage, a royal bloodline, or a divine parentage that recontextualizes the hero's entire life and imposes a destiny they must now embrace. Other times it is the forgiveness of a past wrong, a release of a deep-seated grudge that has poisoned the hero's heart and clouded their judgment. And for some, it is the sudden, humbling understanding of a greater cosmic order, a realization that their personal struggle is part of a pattern far grander than they ever imagined. This insight allows the hero to integrate the conflicting parts of their own psyche, making peace with their shadow and accepting the wisdom of the mentor. They reconcile the individual will with the universal law. Think of Simba in The Lion King, staring into the shimmering waters of his own reflection until the image of his father, Mufasa, appears in the stars. That moment is his revelation. He hears the echo of his father's voice reminding him, "You are more than what you have become." It is not a scolding, but a call to remember his true identity and his responsibility to the circle of life. This atonement with the father figure, with the king, with tradition, empowers him to stop running from his past and to finally integrate the exiled prince with the rightful king. He becomes whole. When have you experienced a moment of pure, unexpected clarity that fundamentally altered your perspective on a relationship or a long-held belief? That flash of insight is the same powerful current that reorients the hero's entire quest. Having faced this deepest truth and achieved internal unity, the hero is finally prepared to seize the ultimate goal they have journeyed so far to find. The hero's fingers close around the glowing elixir, and for a single, breathless moment, the entire world holds still. This is the ultimate boon, the treasure won at the farthest point of the quest, the very reason for the harrowing journey. Mythologist Joseph Campbell described this prize as something that transcends the hero's personal ambition, a thing of such profound power that it can restore a wasted kingdom, heal a fractured society, or illuminate all of humanity. It is never just for the one who finds it. It is a gift meant to be carried back and shared. This final goal can take countless forms, a dazzling array of rewards that fall into a few essential categories. Some boons are objects of healing, like the mythical fountain of youth, whose waters promise to cure all illness and reverse the ravages of time, restoring vitality to a fading world. Others are vessels of pure wisdom, like the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge, an enlightenment that comes with a terrible price but expands human understanding forever. And then there are the boons of raw power, like the philosopher's stone of alchemical legend, said to transmute base metals into gold and produce the elixir of life itself. Yet the most powerful boon of all might be the story of Prometheus, the titan who defied the gods to steal fire for a shivering, primitive humanity. He did not seek a personal reward. He sought the ultimate tool of civilization, a spark of divine power that would allow the human race to cook its food, forge its metals, and light its way through the long dark of history. His boon was not a simple object. It was the very engine of progress and culture, a transformative force that lifted all of humanity. So what is the boon you are striving for in your own life? Is it a tangible achievement, a state of inner peace, or a piece of hard-won wisdom you hope to share with your community? The moment of grasping this prize feels like an ending, a final victory after so much struggle. But the quest is only half complete, for a treasure locked away at the world's edge helps no one. The hero's most perilous task still lies ahead, the long and often forgotten road back home. The hero clutches the glowing prize, yet their gaze turns not toward home, but back toward the enchanted realm. This is the secret struggle at the journey's peak, the refusal of the return. After the ecstasy of gaining the boon, a profound reluctance can set in. The hero, now transformed, hesitates to bring their hard-won treasure back to the ordinary world. From a psychological view, this mirrors our own deep resistance to integrating a new, more authentic self into a life that may feel too small to contain it. The hero fears they will not be understood, that the mundane world will reject their new wisdom or, worse, remain utterly unchanged by it. This refusal manifests in several telling ways. There can be a flat denial of responsibility, a selfish desire to keep the enlightenment for oneself. There is often a powerful attraction to the quest world's pleasures and newfound status, a bliss that feels impossible to relinquish. And sometimes it is a simple despair over the return journey's dangers, the terrifying thought that the long road back might strip away everything that was just won. Homer's Odysseus embodies this tension perfectly. His years of wandering after the Trojan War are not just a result of Poseidon's wrath, they are a series of deliberate delays. He lingers for a year in the enchanted embrace of the goddess Calypso, offered immortality and eternal comfort if he will only stay. He is tempted by the lotus eaters who offer a life of forgetful peace. Each stop is a refusal, a subconscious hesitation to resume the duties of king and husband in a world that must feel distant and ordinary after battling cyclopes and hearing the songs of sirens. His heart yearns for Ithaca, yet some part of him clings to the freedom and grandeur of the quest. Can you recall a time you returned from a life-changing trip, a transformative workshop, or even a period of deep personal growth, only to find yourself resisting the pull of your old routines? That inner friction, that sense of something new and fragile bumping against the rigid walls of your everyday life, is the echo of the hero's refusal. This hesitation is not a failure, but a final, necessary test before the last and perhaps most challenging leg of the journey can truly begin. The prize feels heavy in your hands, and the air behind you crackles with fury. You have taken something precious, and now the guardians are coming. This is the magic flight, the desperate race back from the heart of danger, where the hero must escape with the boon before it is violently reclaimed. Joseph Campbell identified this stage as a crucial reversal of the initial threshold crossing. a frantic retreat under the vengeful eyes of the world you just plundered. The flight is not a cowardly act, but a strategic, often miraculous, escape that adds a final layer of suspense to the journey, proving the hero is worthy not just to win the treasure, but to keep it. This desperate retreat demands every ounce of the hero's accumulated skill. Cunning becomes their greatest weapon, the art of misdirection and clever tricks to baffle their pursuers. The Greek god Hermes, the patron of thieves and travelers, was a master of this, using guile and illusion to steal and escape where brute force would have surely failed. Sometimes the flight relies on raw speed or endurance, a test of pure will against an overwhelming force, and often it requires magical assistance, a final gift from an ally or a talisman that creates a protective barrier, a wall of wind or a sudden fog to shield the hero from the vengeful tide. Consider the archetypal escape of Jason and the Argonauts. They did not simply take the golden fleece and sail peacefully into the sunset. They snatched it from the sacred grove and fled in their ship, the Argo, with the enraged King Aeates and his entire Colchian fleet in furious pursuit. Their magic flight was a harrowing naval chase, prolonged by the interventions of the king's daughter, Medea, who used her own knowledge of magic to delay her father's ships, throwing pieces of her own brother's dismembered body into the sea to force the horrified pursuers to stop and collect them. It was a grim, brutal, and necessary act of deception for their survival. So what forces in your own life try to reclaim your hard-won gains? Is it the old habit that whispers you are not really changed, the cynicism of others that diminishes your new perspective, or the sheer gravitational pull of a familiar but limiting environment? This exhilarating, desperate run does not end in the wilderness. It culminates at the very edge of the known world, where the final threshold awaits, the last doorway between the epic and the everyday. The gateway between worlds is not a grand arch of stone, but a quiet, invisible line that only the transformed can feel. This is the crossing of the return threshold, the final, fragile step where the hero brings their hard-won elixir back into the realm of the ordinary. Mythologist Joseph Campbell described this as the hero becoming the master of two worlds, having navigated both the chaos of the supernatural and the structure of the familiar. The ultimate test is no longer about surviving monsters, but about applying cosmic wisdom to the simple, stubborn facts of daily existence. This return is far from a triumphant parade. It is often the most isolating part of the entire journey. The hero now sees their old home with new eyes, noticing its unspoken rules and quiet compromises. They carry a boon that feels luminous and vital, yet they must find a way to explain a profound transformation to people who have only lived in one reality. The first great challenge is communication. How do you describe the taste of starlight to someone who has never left the ground? The hero's stories are often met with blank stares, polite disbelief, or even active rejection from those who fear change. This skepticism can be more wounding than any dragon's fire, for it attacks the very validity of the journey itself. Another struggle is the profound sense of loneliness. The hero has been fundamentally rewired by their experiences, and they can no longer fit comfortably into the old social grooves. They are a stranger in their own home, an exile who has returned but can never truly go back. We see this heartache etched into Frodo Baggins at the end of his quest. He returns to the Shire, the place he fought so desperately to save, only to find it physically scarred by Saruman's spite and spiritually unchanged by the war he just won. His friends Sam, Merry, and Pippin can resume their lives enriched by their own adventures, but Frodo cannot. He is carrying a wound that will not heal, a spiritual weight from bearing the ring that his neighbors cannot see or understand. He sits in his cozy hobbit hole, the green dragon in just a short walk away, and yet he is utterly alienated, a master of the terrifying world beyond the Shire who can no longer find peace within it. His return marks not an ending, but the beginning of a different kind of journey, one of quiet endurance. How do you carry a piece of your own personal magic flight back into your office, your classroom, or your family home? How do you remain true to a hard-won insight when the world around you seems to demand your old self? This final crossing reminds us that the real quest begins when the adventure is over, challenging us to build a bridge between who we became on the journey and who we are expected to be at home. A hero does not simply return and hang up their sword. They learn to live with one foot in the village and the other in the realm of gods. This is the ultimate achievement of the mythic journey, what Joseph Campbell called becoming the master of two worlds. He saw this not as a final reward, but as the hero's new state of being, a profound inner freedom from the fear of death and a complete realization of their own limitless potential. It is the difficult, graceful art of navigating both the ordinary and the extraordinary, the conscious mind and the vast unconscious, without losing your footing in either. This mastery is not about power over others, but about a deep and unshakable harmony within oneself. The hero who has achieved this state embodies a rare balance. They carry the wisdom of the cosmic journey into their daily interactions, able to see the mythic patterns playing out in mundane events. They possess the capacity to teach and guide others, not by dictating answers, but by sharing the tools of transformation they themselves had to learn. There is often a sense of timelessness about them, as if they are living in the eternal present, fully aware of the past and future, yet not bound by either. This mastery manifests in many ways across our stories. It can appear as spiritual enlightenment, a quiet, unwavering connection to something greater than the self. It can take the form of enlightened leadership, where a ruler governs with compassion and wisdom drawn from their own trials, like the legendary King Arthur presiding over Camelot after his own arduous quests. For others, this balance fuels a lifetime of artistic creation, where the artist becomes a channel, translating the sublime visions of their inner journey into music, poetry, or art that inspires all who experience it. Consider the Mesoamerican figure of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. He is a perfect embodiment of this dual mastery. His very form is a union of opposites, the serpent grounded to the earth and the feathers reaching for the heavens. He was a god who walked among humans, a bringer of knowledge, art, and agriculture who bridged the celestial and the terrestrial realms. His myth speaks to the human capacity to integrate our most primal instincts with our highest aspirations. So how do you balance the different worlds you inhabit? The demanding professional and the nurturing family member, the logical thinker and the intuitive dreamer, the person you are expected to be and the person you feel destined to become. This hard-won mastery over your own inner landscape is what grants the final, most precious reward of the entire journey, the freedom to live not according to a script, but from the very core of your authentic self. A hero sits quietly under a bodhi tree, not plotting his next conquest, but simply watching a leaf drift on the wind. This profound peace is the final gift of the mythic journey, the stage Joseph Campbell called the freedom to live. It is the ultimate reward where the hero, having faced death and rebirth, is finally released from the paralyzing fears of the future and the haunting regrets of the past. They live with a deep, unwavering presence in the now. This concept resonates powerfully with existential philosophy, which challenges us to create meaning in a seemingly indifferent universe, to live authentically by embracing our freedom and the weight of our own choices. The hero who has mastered two worlds embodies this authenticity, no longer acting out of obligation or fear, but from a place of integrated purpose and joyful engagement with life itself. This freedom is not a passive state of rest, but an active and dynamic way of being. It is achieved through the complete integration of every lesson learned on the arduous road. The trials, the revelations, and the hard-won boon are no longer external memories. They are the very fabric of the hero's character. This integration manifests in three distinct characteristics. First is a profound acceptance of mortality. Having stared into the abyss and returned, the hero no longer wastes energy raging against the inevitable end of life. Instead, this acceptance liberates them to fully appreciate the preciousness of each present moment. Second is a deep and purposeful engagement with their community. The returned hero does not retreat into isolation, but shares their wisdom and strength, enriching the lives of those around them, understanding that their own fulfillment is tied to the well-being of the whole. And third is a commitment to continuous growth. The journey has taught them that transformation is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process of learning, adapting, and expanding their understanding. We see this beautifully illustrated in the life of the Buddha after his enlightenment. He did not remain in solitary bliss beneath that tree. He spent the next 45 years walking from village to village, sharing his insights with anyone who would listen. His teachings on compassion and mindfulness were not abstract philosophies, but practical tools for living without attachment to suffering. He embodied the freedom to live, engaging fully with the world, teaching his community, and continuously adapting his message to the needs of those he met, all from a foundation of unshakable inner peace. His entire later life was a testament to the boon being shared, a living example of what it means to be truly, freely alive. So what would this freedom to live look like in your own world? Is it the ability to face a difficult conversation without the old anxiety, to find joy in a simple task without your mind racing toward the next worry, or to offer help to your community without expecting anything in return? This culmination of the ancient heroic path is not a relic of the past. It is a vibrant, living pattern that continues to shape the most compelling modern narratives, inviting us to see our own lives as an ongoing journey toward this very same liberation. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, that simple text crawling into the stars ignited a modern myth for millions. Contemporary cinema has become a primary vessel for the ancient hero's journey, adapting its timeless structure for a global audience and proving these patterns are as vital as ever. Filmmaker George Lucas was remarkably open about this, directly crediting the work of Joseph Campbell as the secret blueprint for Star Wars. He did not just borrow a few ideas, he consciously built Luke Skywalker's entire arc on the Monomyth's foundation, translating epic stages into the language of spaceships and the Force. This deliberate design shows how the journey provides a powerful, universal scaffold for storytelling, one that resonates across cultures and generations. Take the story of Harry Potter. His journey begins in the most ordinary of worlds, a cupboard under the stairs, before a call to adventure arrives via a flood of mysterious letters. He crosses a literal threshold at platform 9 3/4, boards the train to Hogwarts, and meets mentors like Dumbledore and Hagrid. His road of trials is his entire magical education, filled with physical battles against trolls and basilisks, mental puzzles like the enchantments guarding the Philosopher's Stone, and the ultimate spiritual test of facing the Shadow, Lord Voldemort, who is a dark reflection of his own history and potential. Harry's discovery of his wizarding heritage is his moment of revelation, forcing him to accept a destiny that recontextualizes his entire lonely childhood. In The Matrix, Neo begins as Thomas Anderson, a man feeling something is deeply wrong with his ordinary world. His call is the famous message, "Follow the White Rabbit." His mentor, Morpheus, offers him a stark choice between the blue pill of blissful ignorance and the red pill of harsh truth, the ultimate threshold crossing. His atonement with the father figure comes when he finally accepts he is the one, no longer fighting the rules of the Matrix but understanding and mastering them. His ultimate boon is not just defeating Agent Smith, but the freedom and enlightenment he can potentially offer all of humanity, a classic prize meant to be shared. Then there is Mona, a hero whose call is the literal sickness of her world, the dying heart of the goddess Te-Fiti. She refuses the call at first, bound by her duty to her island, but eventually crosses the terrifying threshold of the reef, a point of no return. Her supernatural aid is the demigod Maui, a flawed mentor who must rediscover his own heroism alongside her. Her road of trials is the vast, unforgiving ocean, filled with physical threats like the coconut pirates and the psychological test of facing the lava demon Tika, only to achieve revelation when she realizes Tika is not a monster but Te-Fiti herself, robbed of her heart. This moment of profound understanding allows her to achieve her goal not through combat, but through compassion and restoration. Which of these modern mythic journeys has left the deepest mark on you? Was it the wonder of discovering a hidden magical world, the existential thrill of questioning reality itself, or the call to heal a broken natural world? These films resonate not because they are entirely new, but because they tap into the oldest patterns we know. They dress our collective dreams in new aesthetics, reminding us that the hero's path is always waiting for its next traveler, ready to be walked in a new age. The hero's path is a straight line toward a distant peak, but the heroine's path spirals inward, a labyrinth where the greatest treasure is not a captured prize but a reclaimed self. This alternative narrative framework, explored by authors like Maureen Murdoch, values connection and inner transformation over solitary conquest. While the hero often seeks to restore a broken kingdom, the heroine frequently journeys to heal a fractured relationship with her own nature and her community. Her quest is not a linear ascent but a cyclical process of descent and return, where the victories are measured in self-awareness and the mending of bonds. This path offers a distinct and powerful map for a different kind of courage. At the heart of this journey lies a profound separation from the feminine. This does not refer to gender, but to a set of qualities and values a culture may dismiss as soft or unproductive: intuition, emotion, the body, and the natural world. To gain approval in a world that prizes action and logic, the heroine often feels she must reject these core parts of herself. She ascends by adopting a masculine drive for achievement, only to find the success hollow. Consider Heroine from The Lord of the Rings, a shield maiden of Rohan who feels caged by her traditional role. She rejects the feminine sphere of healing and ceremony, yearning for glory in battle, believing that only through masculine acts of valor can she earn renown and escape her despair. Her initial heroism is defined by this separation, a fierce but incomplete identity. This sets the stage for the first key phase, the illusion of a perfect world. The heroine believes she has found the right path, mastering the rules of a system that promised fulfillment. She may achieve power, status, or admiration, yet a deep emptiness persists. Everything looks correct from the outside, but it feels like a performance. This is a world built on should, not on authentic desire. The descent that follows is not into a cave filled with monsters, but into the underworld of her own buried feelings. It is a painful, necessary unraveling. She must confront the grief, rage, and longing she had to suppress to fit into that perfect world. This is her road of trials, a gauntlet of internal shadows where the enemy is often her own self-doubt or the crushing weight of external expectations. The pivotal turn in this spiral is the awakening to self-value. This is not about defeating an external foe, but about a radical shift in perspective where she stops seeking validation from the world she sought to conquer and begins to listen to the inner voice she long ago silenced. It is the moment she realizes her worth is inherent, not earned. Merida from Brave embodies this arc perfectly. She begins by rejecting the feminine duties of royalty, seeing her mother as an antagonist enforcing a stifling tradition. Her rebellion leads to a literal descent into darkness, a magical curse that forces a physical transformation, mirroring their fractured relationship. Her triumph is not winning an archery contest, but the grueling, emotional work of understanding her mother's perspective, mending their bond, and forging a new, more authentic way to be both a princess and herself. She integrates the masculine qualities of independence and skill with the feminine qualities of empathy and connection, becoming a whole and sovereign person. How does this vision of the heroine's journey, with its focus on internal reconciliation and community, expand your own understanding of what it means to be heroic? It challenges the very definition of the boon, suggesting that the most powerful elixir might be self-acceptance, and the ultimate restoration might be the healing of a relationship. These feminine narratives do not replace the hero's path. They enrich our entire map of mythic possibility, reminding us that some of the most profound quests are fought not with swords, but with the courage to feel deeply and to reconnect. A young hero of the Navajo people does not climb a mountain to slay a beast, but walks into a swirling sandstorm to speak with the holy people. His quest is for a healing song, a blessing to restore harmony to his community. This journey through spiritual realms reveals a profound truth. While the hero's journey is a universal human blueprint, its expression is a brilliant kaleidoscope of cultural values, environments, and histories. The fundamental stages may echo, but the heroes who walk them, the trials they face, and the treasures they seek are wonderfully, powerfully distinct. Anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss suggested that myths are not just simple tales. They are complex tools that cultures use to resolve fundamental contradictions within their own belief systems, to make sense of the tension between life and death, nature and culture, the individual and the group. This is why the same deep structure blossoms into such different stories around the world. Consider the vast, ancient narratives of Aboriginal Australia. The Dreamtime is not a setting for the story, it is the story itself, a continuous creation where ancestral beings sang the world into existence. The hero's journey here is one of walking these songlines, of maintaining the land through ritual and memory. The ultimate boon is not a captured object, but the ongoing act of preservation, a sacred responsibility to keep the world alive. Contrast this with the trickster journeys found in many Native American traditions. Figures like Coyote or Raven are not pure-hearted champions. They are chaotic, often selfish, and their adventures frequently backfire with comedic results. Yet through their chaos, they often accidentally bring fire, light, or culture to humanity. Their narrative values cleverness and adaptability over raw strength, and their flaws are not tragic, but essential parts of a world that is constantly being reshaped. In many East Asian epics, the focus shifts dramatically from the individual to the collective. The hero's personal desires are often secondary to their duty to family, empire, or cosmic order. A magnificent example is the tumultuous journey of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, in the classic Journey to the West. He begins as an arrogant, rebellious creature who challenges the heavens themselves. His entire epic is not about finding his power, but about learning to control it. His growth is measured by his gradual, often reluctant, acceptance of responsibility and his devotion to his master, the monk Xuanzang. His boon is not a personal crown, but the successful completion of a sacred pilgrimage that brings Buddhist scriptures to a waiting world, ensuring spiritual enlightenment for an entire civilization. These cultural lenses dramatically alter the core elements we think we know. The role of community, for instance. In many Western narratives, the hero stands apart, their individuality the source of their strength. In countless other traditions, the hero's strength is derived from their connection to their community, and their boon is meaningless if not shared within it. Even the nature of the antagonist changes. It is less often a personified evil and more frequently a representation of imbalance, disharmony, or a broken taboo that must be set right. So how does your own cultural background silently shape your view of heroism? Does your ideal hero fight for personal freedom or for social harmony? Do they conquer a villain or restore a balance? Appreciating these rich differences does more than expand our storytelling palette. It deepens our global understanding of what it means to be human, revealing the countless ways we all navigate the eternal labyrinth of challenge and transformation. These cultural paths are not separate but intertwined, and in our modern, interconnected world, they are beginning to merge in surprising ways, giving rise to entirely new kinds of heroes for a new age. A myth is a dream whispered by all of humanity at once, a story spun from the deepest layers of our shared psyche. This is the core of the psychological interpretation, a lens that views every mythic journey not as an external adventure, but as a powerful allegory for the inner processes of individuation and self-realization. Pioneering thinkers like Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud opened this doorway, suggesting that the fantastical landscapes and beings of myth are symbolic representations of the human mind itself. Jung famously described myths as the great dreams of humanity, expressions of archetypes residing in the collective unconscious. From this perspective, the entire epic is a map of the soul. The characters we meet on this map are not separate people, but facets of our own being. The hero is the conscious ego, the part of us that makes daily decisions and navigates the world. The shadow is the embodiment of everything we repress or deny, our hidden fears, shames, and untamed instincts. The mentor is not an external wizard, but the voice of our own inner wisdom, the higher self that guides us toward growth. Even the events and settings are rich with psychological meaning. Vast, deep waters universally symbolize the unconscious mind, a mysterious realm teeming with forgotten memories and primal emotions. Dense, dark forests represent the unknown territories of the self, places we fear to enter because we do not know what we will find there. And every great battle against a monster or a tyrannical king is a dramatization of an internal conflict, a struggle between our better nature and our baser impulses. The ancient Greek myth of Theseus and the Minotaur is a perfect illustration of this inner voyage. The labyrinth is not just a stone maze, it is the confusing, twisting puzzle of our own psyche, a place where we can easily become lost in our own fears and complexities. The Minotaur waiting at its heart is the terrifying embodiment of our most primal, beastly nature, the raw, untamed part of ourselves that we have locked away. Theseus, the hero, represents the conscious ego venturing into this darkness. The sword he wields is the sharp tool of clarity and courage, and the thread given to him by Ariadne is the lifeline of intuition and connection to the wiser self, the thread that allows him to navigate the inner chaos and find his way back out transformed. So the next time you face a daunting challenge or recall a vivid dream, try looking at it through this mythological lens. What part of you is the hero stepping into the unknown? What shadowy fear or repressed quality is the monster in the maze? And what inner wisdom, what Ariadne's thread, can you call upon to guide you through? Recognizing these patterns does not diminish the power of myth. It amplifies it, revealing that the most epic journey of all is the one we undertake every day within the quiet, boundless landscape of our own mind. Your avatar stands at the edge of a digital forest, a character you designed, named, and equipped for the quest ahead. With the press of a button, you take that first step forward, no longer just watching a hero's journey but actively living it. Video games have transformed ancient mythic patterns into something we can touch, a medium where the player's own choices and skills become the engine of the narrative. Legendary designers like Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of worlds like Hyrule and the Mushroom Kingdom, often speak of crafting experiences that evoke a childlike sense of wonder and discovery. His philosophy is not about guiding players down a narrow path, but about building playgrounds that reward curiosity and make every challenge feel like a personal triumph. This interactive dimension turns the monomyth from a story you hear into a transformation you experience firsthand. The very mechanics of role-playing games are a direct translation of mythological stages into a system of progress. Creating your character is the call to adventure, defining who you will become in this new world. Leveling up is a clear form of initiation, a ritualized transformation where your avatar grows stronger and gains new abilities after each trial. And the boss battle is the ultimate ordeal, a climactic confrontation that tests every skill you have learned, demanding mastery before you can claim the boon and advance the story. These are not just game design choices, they are the building blocks of a modern heroic rite of passage. We can see this vividly in the profound redemption arc of Kratos in the God of War series. He begins as a classic warrior archetype, a figure of pure rage and vengeance. Yet, in his later journey, the player guides him through the stages of atonement as he struggles to become a mentor and father to his son, Atreus. The gameplay itself reflects this inner change, focusing less on mindless slaughter and more on strategic combat, puzzle solving, and the emotional weight of protecting a child. His ultimate boon is not a god's death, but the hard-won salvation of his own soul. Similarly, the endless cycles of the Legend of Zelda beautifully embody the Chosen One narrative. As Link, you always begin in an ordinary world, a young person unaware of your destiny. The call to adventure arrives with a crisis. You cross the threshold into Hyrule's vast fields, and you gather supernatural aids from wise sages and magical items. The entire game is a road of trials across temples and dungeons, each a test of your courage, wisdom, and power, culminating in a final confrontation with the shadow, Ganon. Other games, like the Mass Effect series, take this a step further by introducing moral choices that have tangible consequences for the entire galaxy. The player does not just follow a set path, they define the hero's character through their decisions, shaping alliances and determining the fate of entire civilizations. This interactive narrative makes the hero's journey intensely personal, as you are forced to weigh difficult ethical dilemmas and live with the outcomes. How have the strategic decisions and complex problems in your own video game journeys sharpened your real-world problem-solving skills? This evolution of the heroic tale proves that the oldest stories are not fading away. They are being reborn in our most interactive art form, inviting us not just to witness the myth, but to become the mythmaker. A single rose holds the softness of a petal and the sharpness of a thorn, a perfect symbol for the dual nature of power and beauty that permeates imaginary worlds. This is the language of symbolism, the silent vocabulary that gives depth to every mythic journey. Objects, colors, and landscapes are never just what they appear to be. They are vessels for deeper meanings, carrying the weight of themes and emotions that words alone cannot fully capture. The study of signs and symbols, known as semiotics, reveals how these elements function as a kind of intuitive shorthand, communicating complex ideas about life, death, and transformation directly to our subconscious. A symbol bypasses logic and speaks to a deeper part of our understanding, making the strange feel familiar and the abstract feel concrete. This symbolic language is built from a rich lexicon of common elements that appear across cultures. The eternal struggle between light and darkness, for instance, almost universally represents the conflict between knowledge and ignorance, or hope and despair. A bridge is rarely just a way to cross a river. It is a powerful symbol of transition, a conscious choice to move from one state of being to another. And a mountain is not merely a physical obstacle, it is an age-old symbol of spiritual ascent, the arduous climb toward enlightenment, purity, or a closer connection to the divine. We can organize these symbols into a few intuitive categories to better understand their roles. natural symbols use the world around us as their reference. A flowing river almost always symbolizes the relentless passage of time or the journey of life itself, carrying everything forward toward an inevitable destination. Animal symbols draw on the inherent qualities we attribute to creatures. The serpent, for example, is a profoundly dualistic symbol, often representing both death and poison, and also healing and rebirth, as seen in the caduceus, the medical symbol of a winged staff with two snakes. Then there are the man-made symbols, objects forged by human hands that carry immense cultural weight. A sword is seldom just a weapon. It is a symbol of justice, authority, and the power to cut through falsehood, much like King Arthur's Excalibur, which legitimized his right to rule. Perhaps no single object demonstrates the power of symbolic weight better than the ring. In Richard Wagner's epic opera cycle, The Ring of the Nibelung, a cursed golden ring grants dominion over the world but brings only misery, betrayal, and death to whoever possesses it. J.R.R. Tolkien, deeply influenced by this Germanic mythology, expanded this concept into the One Ring, a symbol of absolute power that actively corrupts the will of its bearer. The ring is a perfect symbol because its circular form has no beginning and no end, representing eternal, inescapable influence, while its material value speaks to the seductive and corrosive nature of unchecked ambition. What symbolic object or image from your favorite story has lingered in your mind long after you finished it? Perhaps a certain color scheme, a recurring animal, or a significant piece of architecture. Taking a moment to decode that symbol can unlock a hidden layer of the narrative, transforming a simple tale into a deeply personal conversation with the themes of the mythic journey itself. The diagnosis felt like a monster emerging from the shadows of a familiar forest, a labyrinth with no apparent exit. Yet, for one woman facing a prolonged illness, the story of the phoenix became her secret map. She did not just read the myth, she began to live it, visualizing each painful treatment as the purifying fire from which she would one day rise, renewed. Her identity was no longer solely that of a patient, but of a resilient creature in a transformative cycle. This is the profound power of myth when it moves from the page into our bones, actively shaping our personal identity. Narrative psychology suggests we are not just storytellers by habit, we are the ongoing narratives we tell ourselves. Our lives are not a random sequence of events, but a plot we are constantly writing, and the cultural myths we absorb provide the most compelling archetypes for our character arcs. We internalize these heroic blueprints, often without realizing it, and they become the lenses through which we frame our own struggles and triumphs. This process unfolds in several subtle ways. First comes identification, where we see our own potential in a hero's core traits. A young entrepreneur navigating the chaotic startup world might consciously channel the cleverness of Anansi the spider, finding creative ways to outmaneuver larger, more established competitors. They are not pretending to be a god, they are adopting a framework for problem solving that feels empowering and effective. Second, we draw immense strength from mythical metaphors. The simple concept of a road of trials can reframe a period of intense personal hardship, like recovering from a significant loss. What felt like a meaningless series of painful days can transform into a necessary, if difficult, chapter in a larger heroic journey where each small victory is a trial overcome. This narrative shift does not remove the pain, but it infuses it with purpose. Finally, we engage in the act of creating personal myths. We selectively highlight certain life events, assign them symbolic meaning, and weave them into a coherent story of who we are and who we are becoming. The career change that felt like a failure can be recast as the crucial refusal of the call, a period of stagnation that ultimately made the subsequent leap into a new field all the more courageous and transformative. Which mythical figure do you unconsciously emulate when the pressure mounts? Is it the patient endurance of Penelope, the strategic mind of Sun Wukong, or the compassionate heart of the Buddha? The answer reveals the hidden architecture of your own personal legend, a story still being written with every choice you make. A hero's triumph can sow the seeds of their own downfall, a bitter harvest from a single moment of pride. This is the ethical heart of the mythic journey, where a hero's greatest challenge is often not a monster to be slain, but a moral dilemma that tests the very core of their character. These stories are far more than simple adventures. They are complex ethical playgrounds where the choices made between personal desire and the greater good define the hero's legacy. Ancient philosophers from Aristotle to Nietzsche provide a lens to view these struggles. Aristotle's virtue ethics would ask not just what a hero does, but what kind of person they are becoming through their actions, striving for a golden mean of courage between cowardice and recklessness. Friedrich Nietzsche, in his concept of the will to power, might frame the hero's drive as a natural expression of life striving to overcome itself. Yet this very impulse must be mastered, or it curdles into pure domination. The ethical dimensions of these quests unfold through several profound themes. The first is the use of force. When is violence justified, and when does a protector become a tyrant? The hero's power must be tempered by a clear moral purpose. Then there is the immense burden of power itself, the weight of the boon that demands responsibility and wisdom far beyond simple strength. And finally, there is the ever-present danger of hubris, the arrogant pride that invites a tragic fall, reminding us that no mortal, no matter how mighty, is above the cosmic order. These themes crystallize into crucial moral lessons for any journey. Humility is not a weakness but a vital shield against the blindness of pride. Compassion often proves to be a more enduring and transformative force than raw conquest. And perhaps most importantly, the ends do not always justify the means, for a victory tainted by unethical choices can poison the peace that follows. The Epic of Beowulf offers a masterful illustration. In his youth, his immense strength is a virtuous force, used to protect the Danes from the monstrous Grendel and his vengeful mother. He acts for the good of the community, a model of heroic virtue. Yet, in his final battle against the dragon as an aged king, his motivations shift. He is driven by a desire to protect his people, but also by a need to prove his enduring might to secure his legacy. This hubris, this belief that he alone must face the threat, leads to his death and leaves his kingdom vulnerable. His story is a powerful lesson that even the greatest hero is fallible, and that true strength lies not just in winning the battle, but in knowing when to rely on others and when to step aside for the next generation. In your own life, when faced with a difficult decision, how do you weigh your personal ambition against your responsibility to those around you? The most meaningful journeys are not measured by the trophies won, but by the integrity of the path walked. A sleek virtual reality headset becomes a shaman's mask, transporting you not just to a new world, but into the very skin of a hero. This is the bleeding edge of mythic storytelling, where evolving technology and profound cultural shifts are forging entirely new paths for our oldest narratives. Futurists and media scholars point to a landscape where artificial intelligence can generate personalized myths on demand, where interactive narratives respond to our unique moral choices, and where global fusion stories blend the archetypes of East and West into something entirely new. The journey is no longer just something we watch, it is something we build and inhabit. This evolution unfolds across several breathtaking frontiers. We are moving toward truly decentralized stories where audiences become co-creators, shaping the plot in real time and making choices that permanently alter the narrative landscape. This participatory model fundamentally blurs the line between the creator and the consumer, granting everyone a piece of the myth-making power. Another powerful trend is the rise of the eco-centric hero. In a world grappling with a climate crisis, we see a growing need for protagonists whose quest is not to conquer nature, but to heal it, whose ultimate boon is the restoration of a balanced ecosystem. These new myths challenge us to see the world itself as a character in need of salvation. Furthermore, the very face of the hero is being redefined. Future stories will increasingly feature heroes who shatter traditional boundaries of gender, race, and ability, reflecting a more inclusive and complex global society. These narratives do not just add diversity for its own sake, they explore entirely new kinds of conflicts, transformations, and definitions of what it means to be heroic. We can already see these seeds sprouting in innovative indie games like Journey, where wordless cooperation with a stranger in a vast desert becomes the entire heroic arc, or in sprawling transmedia franchises that unfold across films, novels, and video games, inviting the audience to piece the full story together across different platforms. How do you think our most urgent global challenges, from artificial intelligence to environmental collapse, will reshape the archetypal stories we tell? This forward-looking perspective is not a prediction of an end, but an invitation to a new beginning, asking each of us what kind of myths we will choose to build for the generations to come. Your next promotion is not just a career goal, it is a call to adventure waiting for a response. This is the practical magic of the Mythic framework, turning life's daunting transitions into a heroic quest you are equipped to navigate. Life coaches and narrative therapists often use these very archetypes to help clients reframe their struggles, not as random misfortunes, but as meaningful stages in a personal epic. The first step is to identify your call to adventure. What is the disruption in your ordinary world? It might be a job offer in a new city, a desire to start a business, or a need to heal after a loss. This call is the initial spark of change, the moment you realize something must be different. Acknowledge the fear and the natural refusal that follows, then consciously make the choice to cross the threshold. This decision itself is a powerful act of courage. Next, actively gather your mentors and allies, who are the wise figures you can turn to for advice. This could be a trusted colleague, a supportive friend, or even the author of a book that profoundly shifts your perspective. Supernatural aid arrives in many forms. Be open to receiving the tools and wisdom they offer. Then prepare for your road of trials. Map out the specific obstacles you will likely face, whether they are skill gaps, financial hurdles, or internal doubts like imposter syndrome. Each challenge is not a stop sign, but an initiation designed to forge a new part of you. Practical tools can guide this entire process. Use a journal as your quest map, not just for logging events, but for reflecting on how each challenge is shaping your character. Create simple rituals to mark your threshold crossings, like a special meal when you launch your project or a quiet moment of acknowledgement when you leave an old job. These acts sanctify the transition, making it real in your psyche. Finally, practice regular reflection to integrate the lessons, asking yourself what each success and failure has taught you about your own strengths and values. Consider the story of a woman who used this framework to navigate a divorce. Her call to adventure was the painful end of her marriage. She refused the call at first, clinging to the hope of reconciliation. Her threshold crossing was signing the divorce papers, an act that felt both terrifying and freeing. Her mentors were a therapist and a supportive divorce group. Her road of trials included learning to manage finances alone, rebuilding a social life, and facing the loneliness of an empty house. She journaled her progress, celebrating small victories like a successful solo vacation. Her ultimate boon was not just a new life, but a profound sense of self-reliance and inner peace she had never known. She did not just survive her ordeal, she was transformed by it. So, what is the central quest of your current chapter? Take a moment to outline its stages. Where is your call to adventure? Who are your mentors? What trials are you facing? And what is the boon, the transformation you are striving toward? This is not about escaping your life, but about entering it more deeply, armed with the oldest map for transformation known to humanity. Every labyrinth of myth and every imaginary world we have explored leads back to a single, profound truth, that these stories are the timeless blueprints of the human soul. From the ancient epics carved in stone to the digital realms we inhabit today, the hero's path remains a universal map for transformation, a narrative thread connecting our deepest fears to our highest aspirations. These journeys teach us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to answer the call despite it. They show us that the search for meaning is the very engine of growth, pushing us to cross thresholds, face our shadows, and return with a boon meant to be shared. The great mythologist Joseph Campbell captured this essence perfectly when he said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." That cave is the uncertainty of a new career, the vulnerability of a heartfelt conversation, or the quiet challenge of a personal dream. Your life is your own unique heroic journey, and every choice is a step on that path. We would love to hear how these myths resonate with you. Share your favorite heroic tale or a personal insight in the comments below, and let us continue this collective exploration. If these wonders of mythology and history have sparked your curiosity, subscribe to join our community. The adventure is far from over, and we look forward to discovering the next chapter with